She was 62 years old, with hands that never stopped trembling. On that day, Lourdes made a choice. She protected a helpless puppy and was shoved so hard she fell to the floor in front of everyone. But what she didn't know was that someone was filming and that this puppy was about to save her life in a way no one could have imagined. This is the story of how an animal's loyalty gave back faith, dignity, and a family to a woman who had already given up on everything. It's a story for anyone who believes that animals feel far more than we can ever know. Lourdes pushed open the diner door at 5:40 in the morning. A neon sign flickered above. She tied on her apron and switched on the coffee maker. Her hands ached, a pain that had lingered since the end of her last shift. "Morning, Lourdes," the manager called from the stockroom doorway. "Morning, Mr. Mario." He disappeared back inside without waiting for a reply. Lourdes filled the filter and listened to the coffee begin to drip. The aroma rose slowly. She wiped down the counter with automatic, weary movements. The door creaked open. Lourdes lifted her eyes. A German shepherd puppy stood on the threshold. Its paws trembled. Its nose twitched, sampling the air. Its brown eyes fixed on her. "Get out of here!" Mario snapped, appearing from behind the counter. "You'll scare away the customers." Lourdes didn't answer. She took a saucer and filled it with water from the jug, then placed it on the floor near the door. The puppy approached slowly. It drank, never taking its eyes off her. "Lourdes," Mario warned. "He's just thirsty," she said. Mario sighed and retreated to the stockroom. The puppy lapped the saucer clean, down to the last drop. Lourdes felt a tightness in her chest, a feeling she hadn't had in a very long time. The first customer came in. The puppy backed away onto the sidewalk. Lourdes served the coffee and went back to the kitchen. Through the window, she could see the animal lying in the shade of a tree. The hours passed slowly. Lourdes fried eggs and assembled sandwiches. Her right shoulder throbbed. She ignored the pain. Noon arrived, hot and sticky. The lunch rush began. Lourdes cleared 3 tables and returned to the counter. The puppy was still outside, waiting. "That thing isn't leaving," Mario said. "Maybe it's lost, or abandoned." He shook his head. "We can't just keep feeding it." Lourdes said nothing. She looked through the glass. The puppy was panting, its tongue hanging out. She grabbed another saucer of water and slipped out the side door. The animal's ears perked up. Lourdes crouched down and set the saucer on the ground. The puppy drank again. She slowly reached out her hand. It sniffed her fingers. "You're all alone, aren't you?" The puppy tilted its head. Lourdes felt her eyes sting. She went back inside before anyone could see. The lunch crowd was growing. Lourdes retied her apron and took a deep breath. Through the half-open door, the puppy kept watching. She didn't know it yet, but that silent vigil was about to change everything. The door swung open violently. A couple entered, talking loudly. The man wore a gold watch. The woman carried a pale leather handbag. They strode directly to the best table in the corner. "Waitress," the man called, without looking at Lourdes. She grabbed her notepad and walked towards them, her heart beating faster. She knew that tone of voice. "Is the service here always this slow?" the woman asked, staring at her phone. "No, ma'am. Your food will be ready in 15 minutes. 15? The man laughed. "Can you do it in 10? I'll ask the cook." "You're not asking. You're telling him," he said, tapping a finger on the table. 2 grilled ham and cheese, 2 orange juices. Fast." Lourdes scribbled the order and went to the kitchen. Her hands were trembling slightly. She passed the order and poured 2 glasses of juice. A movement caught her eye. The puppy had come inside. It was walking slowly between the tables, nose to the ground. It stopped near the couple. "How disgusting," the woman said. The puppy sat, its ears down, its eyes fixed on them. "Get out of here," the man said, pushing his chair back. Lourdes left the glasses on the counter and crossed the room in quick strides, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I'm sorry. I'll get him out of here." "What kind of place is this?" the woman demanded, standing up. "Dogs wandering in? Open food? He won't do anything, ma'am." The man took a step towards the puppy. He raised his foot. Lourdes moved before she could think, placing herself in his path. "Please, don't." The silence in the diner was heavy. Every customer was now watching. Mario appeared from the kitchen, his face flushed. "Lourdes, get that animal out of here now!" She bent down and lifted the puppy into her arms. It was light. Its body trembled against hers. She felt its heart beating far too fast. "What a circus," the woman scoffed. Lourdes walked to the door. The puppy snuggled against her neck. She set it down gently outside. "Stay here, please." When she turned around, the couple was on their feet. The man was pointing at her. "Are you choosing that mutt or your job?" His voice echoed in the silent room. Lourdes held her breath. She stood frozen, the words caught in her throat. The man took 2 steps toward her. "I asked you a question." "Alvaro, let's just go," the woman said, grabbing her purse. "This place is a dump. Not before we settle this." Mario approached, his hands raised placatingly, his face slick with sweat. "Sir, please, I'll get rid of the animal." "You should have already," Alvaro said, pointing to the door. "And her too." Lourdes felt the floor tilt beneath her. She looked at Mario. He avoided her gaze. A scratch came from the door. The puppy was back. It ran inside and stopped behind Lourdes' legs, its body pressing against her calf. "I don't believe this," the woman said with a joyless laugh. "Bianca, film this." "Already am, Alvaro." Lourdes turned slowly. The puppy looked up at her, its ears trembling. She knelt again. "You can't be in here." The puppy licked her hand. Lourdes felt something old and hard break inside her chest. "Are you going to get that thing out of here, or do I have to?" Alvaro advanced. Lourdes stood in front of the puppy again. She didn't think. Her body just acted. "Don't touch him." "What?" "I said, don't touch him." Alvaro shoved her hard. Lourdes stumbled backward. Her shoulder slammed into the corner of the counter. A searing pain shot down her arm. She collapsed to her knees. The room erupted in voices. Chairs scraped against the floor. The puppy let out a single, sharp, frightened bark. "Alvaro, stop!" Bianca cried, pulling his arm. "Let's go." A man stood up from a table in the corner. Graying hair, a simple shirt. He was holding his phone, pointed directly at the scene. "I think it's time for you to leave," he said in a calm voice. "Who are you?" "Someone who saw everything." Alvaro glanced around. 3 people were filming now. He grabbed Bianca by the arm. "Come on. This place isn't worth our time." They stormed out, slamming the door behind them. The sound echoed. Lourdes was still on the floor. The puppy came closer and nudged her face with its wet nose. The gray-haired man put his phone away and approached her slowly. "Are you all right, ma'am?" Lourdes nodded. He offered a hand and helped her up. Her shoulder throbbed. "I'm Sergeant Renato Pires, military police." She looked at him. His eyes were direct but kind. "I saw the whole thing," Renato said. And I recorded it. Lourdes pressed a hand to her shoulder. The pain was a heavy, pulsing beat. She took 3 deep breaths. The other customers began to murmur among themselves. You need to sit down, Renato said. I need to work. You need to take care of that arm first. Mario approached with a damp cloth, not quite looking at her. I'm sorry. I didn't want this to happen. I know, she said. But you understand, right? A customer is a customer. Lourdes felt an icy chill run down her spine. She took the cloth from his hand. I understand. Renato crossed his arms. He looked at Mario but said nothing. The silence grew heavy. I'm going to finish my shift, Lourdes said. Are you sure? Renato asked. I'm sure. She tied her apron again. Her hands were still trembling. The puppy remained at her feet. She didn't have the heart to send it away again. The customers left, one by one. Some left larger tips. Others whispered, glancing at her. Lourdes cleared the tables and collected the dishes. Renato stayed until the end. He ordered another coffee and ate a slice of cake. When the diner was empty, he called to her. Ma'am, may I have a word with you? She walked over. Her entire body ached now. I have the video, Renato said. It's clear. It shows everything. So what? So what happened was assault. You can file a report. Lourdes looked down at her own hands, calloused and stained with grease. And then what? I'll lose my job. Maybe not. You don't know how things work around here. Renato tilted his head, his eyes serious now. I know more than you might think, and I know that people like that don't stop. If it's not you, it'll be someone else. Lourdes felt her eyes burn. She blinked hard. I don't know. Think about it. He took a card from his wallet. This is my number. Call me when you decide. She took the card. The paper was warm from his hand. Thank you. Renato nodded and left. Lourdes stood alone in the empty diner. The puppy stretched by the door. Mario emerged from the kitchen, locking the register and turning off the lights. Lourdes. Yes? Tomorrow. We'll talk more about all this. She nodded. She knew what that meant. She grabbed her purse and walked to the door. The puppy got up and followed her. Outside, the afternoon was giving way to a hot, heavy evening. Lourdes looked down at the animal. It looked back at her. You don't give up, do you? The puppy wagged its tail once. Lourdes felt something new growing in her chest. It wasn't hope yet, but it was close. The side alley smelled of old garbage. Lourdes walked slowly, each step jarring her shoulder. The puppy followed a few feet behind, its paws padding on the asphalt. She stopped at the corner and looked back. It stopped too, its ears pricked. You have to go home. The puppy took 3 steps forward, then paused, its tail low. I can't take care of you. It sat down, its eyes never leaving her face. Lourdes sighed. She turned and started walking again. The sound of paws followed. She didn't look back again. The bus arrived 5 minutes later, packed. Lourdes squeezed on, clutching her purse to her chest. She found a spot by the window. When she looked out, the puppy was sitting at the bus stop. The bus pulled away. She closed her eyes. The ride took 20 minutes. Lourdes got off 3 blocks before her usual stop. Her shoulder hurt too much to endure the lurching of the bus. She walked along the cracked sidewalk. Her building was 4 stories of peeling paint and weathered walls. She climbed the 2 flights of stairs slowly. The key trembled in the lock. Her studio was 160 square feet, a single bed, a 2-burner stove, a small sink. Lourdes dropped her purse and sat on the bed. The silence pressed in on her. She took out her phone and looked at Renato's card. The numbers seemed to glow in the dim light. A scratch came from the door. Lourdes stood up too quickly. The room spun. She braced herself against the wall and waited for the feeling to pass. Another scratch, more insistent this time. She opened the door. The puppy was there. Its tongue was hanging out, its body shaking with exhaustion. "How did you find me?" It slipped inside before she could stop it, sniffing the floor and the baseboards. It stopped by the bed and looked up at her. "You can't stay." The puppy lay down, resting its head on its paws. A long sigh escaped its snout. Lourdes sat back on the bed. She reached out a hand. The puppy licked her fingers once. "Just for tonight, then." She pulled an old cloth from a drawer and made a small bed on the floor. She filled a bowl with water. The puppy drank slowly. Night fell quickly. Lourdes ate bread and butter for dinner, sharing a piece with the puppy. It ate from the palm of her hand. The gas canister let out a faint hiss. Lourdes glanced at the valve. It seemed a little loose. She made a mental note to call a technician on Monday. She lay down on the bed. The puppy curled up on the cloth at her feet. Its breathing was steady now. Lourdes picked up the card again. She read the name 3 times. Sergeant Renato Pires. She turned off the light but couldn't sleep. The ceiling had water stains she knew by heart. The puppy snored softly, a small, living sound in the quiet room. Lourdes felt her throat tighten. How long had it been since someone had slept so close to her? Light slipped through the crack in the curtains. Lourdes opened her eyes. 5:15 in the morning. Her body was heavy and sore. The puppy wasn't on his blanket. She sat up abruptly, her heart pounding. "Hey!" A noise came from the kitchen. The puppy was under the sink. He'd knocked over his water bowl. "I'm sorry," Lourdes said, knowing he wouldn't understand. She wiped up the water and filled the bowl again. The puppy drank thirstily. She crouched down, stroking his ears, soft and warm. "You need a name." He looked up at her, his tail starting to wag. "Nico. How about Nico?" The puppy licked her hand. Lourdes smiled. It had been a long time since she'd smiled this early in the morning. She took a quick shower and put on a clean uniform. Her shoulders still ached, but less than before. She ate 2 pieces of toast, standing by the counter. Nico waited by the door. "You can't come with me." He tilted his head. "I'll be back, I promise." She left, locking the door behind her. The sound of her own footsteps echoed in the stairwell. At the front gate, she glanced up. Nico was at the window, his paws on the bars. The bus was crowded again. Lourdes stood the whole way, the landscape passing in a blur. She got off 2 stops early. She needed to think. She walked slowly to the diner. The lights were already on. Mario was behind the counter. He saw Lourdes and motioned for her to come to the back. "Sit down." She sat, her heart thumping. "Look, Lourdes, you're a good employee. Always have been." He scratched the back of his neck. "But yesterday was too much. I didn't do anything. You caused a scene. I was protecting an animal. You disrespected a customer." Mario sighed. "I can't have that here." Lourdes felt the floor give way beneath her. She clenched her hands in her lap. Are you firing me? No, but I'm warning you. One more time and you're out. And if they come back? You serve them, normally. No dog, no trouble. She looked down at her own hands. Her nails were worn. I understand. Good. Now let's get to work. Lourdes stood up, her legs trembling. She tied on her apron and went out to the main floor. The shift began as usual. Coffee, toast, customers in a hurry. No one mentioned the day before. Lourdes was grateful for the silence. Noon arrived, hot again. A man came in and ordered a grilled ham and cheese. Lourdes recognized the voice before she saw the face. Renato? He sat at the same table, waiting for her to approach. Good morning. Good morning, Sergeant. Just Renato. He glanced around. Everything all right today? More or less. The arm? Still hurts. Renato lowered his voice, his expression turning serious. Have you thought about what I said? Lourdes looked toward the kitchen. Mario had his back to them. I have. And? She took a deep breath. The decision had been made the moment she woke up. I'm going to file a report. Renato gave a single, firm nod. He didn't smile. He just held her gaze. When? Today. After my shift. I'll take you. Lourdes felt a tightness in her chest. She wasn't used to help. You don't have to. I know, but I'm going to. She returned to the kitchen. Her hands moved on their own, assembling sandwiches. Her mind was somewhere else. The rest of the shift dragged on, each minute heavier than the last. Lourdes cleared tables, filled glasses, smiled at customers. On the outside, she was the same. Inside, something was changing. At 3:30, she hung up her apron. Mario didn't even look at her. Renato was waiting at the door. Ready? No, but let's go. They walked to his patrol car, parked 2 blocks away. The car smelled of stale coffee and leather. Are you a real cop? Lourdes asked. 28 years on the force. And why are you helping me? Renato started the engine. It rumbled softly. Because no one helped me when I needed it. He glanced at her fool. And because it's the right thing to do. Lourdes didn't know what to say. She looked out the window as the city sped by. The police station was downtown, an old building with stained walls, smelling of paper and sweat. Renato led her to the front desk. Good afternoon. We're here to file a report. The desk clerk looked at Lourdes, his expression a mixture of boredom and exhaustion. What kind? Assault. He pulled out a form. Blue pen, small print. Full name? Lourdes Amaro. Age? 62. Address? She recited it, each word feeling heavy. The clerk wrote slowly. Tell me what happened. Lourdes began. Her voice trembled at first, but then it grew steady. She described the puppy, the couple, the shove. Renato confirmed every detail. I have a video, he said, handing over his phone. The clerk watched it without expression. When it was over, he nodded. This is serious. That's why we're here, Renato said. She'll need witnesses. There were 3 people filming. I can get their contact information. The clerk stamped the paper. The sound echoed in the quiet room. Report filed, number 4628. Lourdes took her copy. The paper was still warm from the printer. She folded it and put it in her purse. Outside, the sun was still bright. Renato lit a cigarette. How do you feel? I don't know. Lourdes looked at the ground. Scared. Fear is normal. What if they come back? Then you call me. He stubbed out the cigarette. You won't have to face this alone. They drove back in silence. Renato dropped her off in front of her building. As Lourdes got out, he called to her. Hey. She turned. You did the right thing. Lourdes climbed the stairs, her legs feeling heavier than they had that morning. She opened the door. Nico came running, jumping up to put his paws on her knees, his tail wagging furiously. Hi, Nico, she said, kneeling down. He licked her face. Lourdes hugged his warm, trembling body. For the first time, in a very long time, she didn't feel completely alone. The morning broke cold. Lourdes woke to find Nico lying at her feet, his weight a warm presence on the blanket. She lay still for a moment, just feeling it. The clock read 5 a.m. She got up slowly, trying not to wake him. She filled his water bowl and left 2 pieces of bread on the floor. I'll be back soon. Nico lifted his head, his eyes still sleepy. She closed the door gently. The bus was nearly empty. Lourdes sat near the front and rested her head against the cool glass. The city was slowly waking up. At the diner, Mario was already there. He didn't say good morning, just gave a slight nod. Coffee's ready. Thank you. Lourdes tied her apron. Her hands weren't shaking today. She served the first few customers. Low conversations, the usual morning rush. At 9:30, the door opened. Alvaro and Bianca walked in. The diner fell silent. Everyone stared. Lourdes felt her stomach clench. They sat at the same table as before. Bianca took off her dark sunglasses. Alvaro crossed his arms. Waitress. Lourdes took a deep breath. She picked up her notepad and walked toward them, her heart hammering in her ears. Good morning. I didn't think we'd be seeing you here again, Bianca said. I'm working. Of course you are. Alvaro smiled, but there was no joy in it. 2 coffees. And be quick about it. Lourdes went back to the counter. Her hands were trembling now. She filled 2 cups and placed them on a tray. Mario came over, his voice low. No trouble, Lourdes. There won't be. She carried the coffee to their table, setting the cups down without looking at them. Anything else? Actually, yes. Alvaro opened his wallet and took out an envelope. This is for you. Lourdes didn't take it. She stared at the white envelope. What is it? A settlement, Bianca said, stirring her coffee. You forget what happened. We pay for the inconvenience. How much? 2,000. The number hung in the air. Lourdes looked at their hands. Perfect manicures, expensive rings, everything clean. I don't want it. Alvaro laughed, a short, harsh sound. Everybody wants it. I don't. Bianca stopped stirring her coffee. She looked at Lourdes for the first time. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but not in the way you think. Lourdes turned and walked back to the counter. Her legs were shaking. She held onto the sink until the dizziness passed. Alvaro called Mario over. They spoke in low voices. The manager listened with slumped shoulders, nodding his head. When the couple left, Mario walked over to Lourdes. Do you have any idea what you've just done? I do. They're going to sue the diner because of you. Because of them, Lourdes corrected. Do you think I can afford to lose customers like that? You think I can just accept hush money? Mario opened his mouth, then closed it. He shook his head and went back to the kitchen. The rest of the shift passed in a heavy silence. Lourdes served, cleaned, took orders. No one spoke to her. At 3 o'clock, she took off her apron. Renato walked in just as she was about to leave. I saw them leaving. They tried to buy me off. And you? I told them to go to hell, Lourdes said with a tired smile. Politely, but I did. Renato nodded. Something in his eyes changed. Respect. So now it gets serious. I know. Are you ready? Lourdes thought of Nico, of her small apartment, of the folded police report in her purse, of how she had slept last night. Less alone. I am. They walked out together. The afternoon sun was strong. Lourdes didn't look back. The war had begun, but she was no longer fighting it alone. The station was more crowded than the first time. Lourdes sat on a plastic chair, her hands sweating. Renato was at the counter, talking to another officer. Lourdes Amaro? A woman in a lab coat called. She stood up, her legs unsteady. The woman led her to a small room. Metal table, 2 chairs, the smell of disinfectant. I'm the forensic examiner. I need to photograph your injuries. Lourdes took off her jacket. The bruise on her shoulder had spread, yellow at the edges, dark purple in the center. The examiner took 6 photos. The flash was a blinding white. Each click registered the truth. You can get dressed. Lourdes went back to the waiting area. Renato was holding a file. I found 2 of the witnesses. They're willing to testify. And the third one? Vanished. But 2 is a good start. The chief of police called them in. A larger office, a noisy fan overhead. He had deep circles under his eyes. Sit down, Ms. Amaro. She sat, her hands quiet in her lap now. Tell me again. From the beginning. Lourdes told the story. Her voice was firm, tearless. The chief took notes, occasionally asking for details. She answered each one. And the dog? He's with me now. His name? Nico. The chief looked from Renato to Lourdes. You know this is going to take a while, right? We know, Renato said. And that they'll try everything? We know that too. The chief signed 3 papers, then stamped them. The sound echoed in the room. I'm opening an official inquiry. Assault and animal cruelty. Lourdes felt something release in her chest. It wasn't relief, it was just less heavy than before. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The hard part starts now. They walked out into the hall. A young woman with a notepad was waiting. Sergeant Pires? Yes? I'm from the neighborhood Gazette. Can I ask you a few questions? Renato looked at Lourdes. She nodded. You can. The reporter recorded everything. Name, age, occupation. Lourdes answered calmly, each word heavy with meaning. And the dog? The reporter asked. He just wanted water and protection. Weren't you afraid? Lourdes thought for a moment. Of Nico waiting at the window, of his water bowl, of the night that was a little less lonely. I was, but I did it anyway. The reporter smiled. She turned off the recorder. This will be in tomorrow's paper. Outside, the afternoon was dying in shades of orange. Renato walked Lourdes to the bus stop. Get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. I know. The bus arrived. She got on and found a seat. Through the window, she saw Renato light a cigarette. At home, Nico jumped on her before she could even close the door. His joy was pure, simple. Lourdes sat on the floor, and he curled up in her lap, heavy and warm. We did the right thing, she whispered, stroking his ears. Nico sighed. She closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt like she had done something that mattered. Sunday dawned overcast. Lourdes woke to the sound of Nico scratching at the door. He needed to go out. Easy now. She pulled on an old sweatshirt and took him downstairs. On the sidewalk, Nico sniffed at every post. Lourdes waited with a newfound patience. A neighbor walked by with a bag from the market. Morning, Lourdes. Morning, Mrs. Saida. Is that the dog that saved you? Lourdes blinked. How did she know? You haven't seen the paper? Mrs. Saida pulled it from her bag. It came out today. The headline was large. Waitress assaulted while defending puppy. The photo showed Lourdes at the police station. Serious. Tired. My goodness, the whole neighborhood is talking. That couple should be ashamed of themselves. Mrs. Saida squeezed Lourdes's arm with a strength that knew of struggle. You were so brave. Lourdes didn't know what to say. She just nodded. Donna Sita walked on. Nico tugged at the leash. Back home, Lourdes read the entire article. Every word stirred something inside her. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. She looked over at Nico. He was chewing on a piece of cardboard. Stop that! He dropped it. His tail wagged. Guilty, but happy. Lourdes picked up the phone. She dialed the number she had saved for months. 3 rings, then 4. Hello? Her son's voice, deep and distant. Hi, Mauricio. Silence. Then a sigh. Mom, I know you don't want to talk to me. That's not it. Then what is it? Mauricio took a long time to answer. The sound of traffic in the background. You disappeared, Mom. For years. I know. Lourdes's throat tightened. I was ashamed. Of what? Of everything. Of your father, of how things ended. That wasn't your fault. But I felt guilty anyway. Another silence, heavier this time. I saw the paper, Mauricio said. What happened? Are you okay? Lourdes glanced at her shoulder, still bruised, still sore. I am. I am now. And the dog? He's here with me. His name is Nico. Mauricio let out a short, but genuine laugh. You always hated dogs. I know, but he didn't give up on me. The line went quiet. Lourdes held her breath. Can I come see you? Mauricio asked. Her chest tightened hard. Yes. Next Saturday? Is that good? They hung up. Lourdes stood holding the phone. The tears came slowly, hot and clean. Nico nudged his snout against her leg. She knelt and hugged him. Thank you, she whispered. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. And he stayed there, quiet and present. The afternoon passed slowly. Lourdes cleaned the apartment, washed Nico's rags, and fashioned a leash from an old belt. That evening, the phone rang. It was Renato. Did you see the paper? I did. There'll be more people at the diner tomorrow. Curious ones. I can handle it. I know you can, but stay sharp. Lourdes promised she would. She hung up and looked at Nico, sleeping on a cloth on the floor. His breathing was peaceful. She lay down. The ceiling had the same old stains, but the small apartment felt less empty, fuller. There was life here now. Monday arrived with a fine drizzle. Lourdes left Nico with food and water. He whimpered at the door. I'll be back, I promise. On the bus, 3 people recognized her. Quick glances, hushed whispers. She kept her eyes fixed on the window. From a distance, the diner looked normal. Up close, Lourdes saw a note on the door. In small letters. Opportunist. She tore it off and crumpled it in her fist. She went inside. Mario was at the counter, his face a grim mask. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Mario. We need to talk. Lourdes felt her stomach clench. She followed him to the back. Did you see what was in the paper? I did. Everyone's talking about it. Mario scratched the back of his neck. Some customers called. And? Some in support, others complaining. Complaining about what? About you. They say you made a scene for no reason. Lourdes crossed her arms. Anger rose in her slowly. No reason? I was assaulted. I know, Lourdes, but you have to understand my position. Which position? Your position as a boss or as a man? Mario looked away. He shuffled some papers on his desk. I'm just asking for some discretion. Discretion. Lourdes repeated the word. It tasted bitter. The same discretion you showed when they shoved me? It wasn't like that. But it was exactly like that. She walked out before he could answer. She tied her apron on tightly, her hands trembling with rage. The shift started normally. Coffee, bread, idle chatter. But Lourdes felt the eyes on her, some curious, some hostile. A woman came in around noon. Blonde hair, expensive clothes. She sat down and ordered a juice. Are you the waitress from the paper? I am. The woman scrolled through her phone. Don't you think you overreacted a bit? Lourdes froze, the heavy tray in her hand. Overreacted? I don't know, over a dog? It was over dignity. Oh, right. The woman laughed. An animal's dignity? The dignity of any living being. Lourdes placed the juice on the table and walked away, her heart pounding. During her break, she sat in the alley, hands trembling, breath short. Renato appeared with 2 cheese buns. Brought you a snack. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. She took one, chewing without tasting it. Is it rough? Renato asked. Harder than I thought. It always is. He lit a cigarette. People like to judge what they don't understand. And the ones who do understand, they stay quiet. They're afraid. Lourdes finished the bun. The rain had stopped. The ground shone, wet. Nico waited for me at the door today, she said. He knows you'll come back. How? Dogs just know. Renato put out his cigarette. They trust you until you prove them wrong. Lourdes thought about that. Simple, unquestioning trust. I wish I were like that. You are, Renato said, getting up. You just haven't realized it yet. The afternoon shift was worse. More stares, more whispers. One man left a 10-cent tip. Another left without paying at all. At 3, Lourdes took off her apron. Mario called her over. Tomorrow, try to be more discreet. She looked at him, really looked at him. She saw a tired, cowardly, small man. I'll try. But she knew she couldn't, and she no longer wanted to. Out on the street, the rain returned, a fine, cold mist. Lourdes walked slowly to the bus stop. The bus took a long time. She stood there, getting soaked. At home, Nico greeted her as he always did. Pure joy. He didn't care about newspapers or stares or judgments. Lourdes sat on the floor. He lay his head in her lap, heavy and warm. You're the best part of my day, she said. Nico licked her hand. Once. Slowly. It was everything she needed to hear. Renato came to the diner on Wednesday. Full uniform, serious expression. "Good morning." "Good morning, Sergeant," Mario said, his voice tense. Renato ordered a coffee and sat near the counter. Lourdes served him. He thanked her with a nod. He stayed there for her whole shift. Sometimes he read the paper. Sometimes he just watched. His presence changed the atmosphere. People spoke more quietly. On her break, he called her over. "I got the statements." "From the witnesses?" "Yes. 2 of them confirmed everything. Date, time, details." Lourdes sat down. The relief was faint, but real. "What now?" "Now the public prosecutor's office decides whether to press charges." "How long?" "Weeks, maybe months." The weight returned. Lourdes looked down at her hands. "Am I going to be able to handle this?" "You will." Renato drank his coffee. "You know how I know?" "How?" "Because you're already handling it." A customer walked in. Renato went back to his table. Lourdes served, took an order, wiped a table. At 2 in the afternoon, a woman entered carrying a bag. "Are you Lourdes?" "I am." "I saw you in the paper. I brought this for the dog." She handed over the bag. "Some food and a few toys." Lourdes was speechless. The woman smiled. "You did the right thing." She left before Lourdes could thank her. Inside the bag was a package of kibble, 2 rubber toys, and a note. "Stay strong." Lourdes felt her eyes sting. She tucked it all away under the counter. At the end of her shift, Renato waited for her outside. "Can I give you a ride home?" "You don't have to do this every day." "I know, but I want to." They drove in silence, the police car rattling over potholes. Renato stopped in front of her building. "Lourdes." "Yes?" "There's something you need to know." He stared straight ahead. "They've hired a lawyer. A good one." A cold dread settled in her stomach. "And what does that mean?" "It means they're going to fight. They'll try to smear your name, say you provoked them." "But I didn't." "I know, but they'll try anyway." Lourdes took a deep breath. 3 times. 4. "What do I do?" "You stand firm. Don't change your story. Don't accept a settlement." "And if I lose?" "Then at least you tried." Renato looked at her. "That's already more than most people do." Lourdes got out, her legs heavy. She climbed the stairs slowly. Nico was at the door. He had heard her footsteps. His tail was wagging furiously. "Hi, boy." She knelt down. He licked her face. Lourdes laughed. A small but real sound. "Look what we got." She opened the bag. Nico sniffed everything. He grabbed a toy and bit down. A high-pitched squeak. Lourdes filled his bowl with the new food. He ate quickly, happily. That night, she went to bed early. Nico was beside the bed, the toy between his paws. Lourdes thought about the lawyer, about the lies that would come, about the fear that would return. But then she looked at Nico. He slept peacefully, trustingly. If he could trust, so could she. She had to. Friday began with a clear sky. Lourdes woke up to an restless Nico. He was pacing the small apartment, sniffing the corners, then returning to her. "What is it?" He pawed at the kitchen door, insistent. "There's nothing there." But he wouldn't stop. Lourdes got up, opened the kitchen door. The smell was normal. The stove was off. The sink was clean. See? Nothing. Nico sniffed the floor, stopped near the gas canister, and let out a single short bark. Lourdes moved closer. She sniffed. A faint, sweetish odor, almost imperceptible. Shit. She turned off the valve, threw open the window. The cold air rushed in. Nico sat, looking at her, waiting for approval. Good boy. Very good boy. She called a technician. He promised to come on Monday. Lourdes hung up and knelt beside Nico. You saved me. He licked her hand. As simple as that. At the diner, Lourdes told Renato. He smelled the gas? Before I did. A dog's sense of smell is 1,000 times better than ours. Renato stroked his chin. Lucky you. It wasn't luck. It was him. The shift passed quickly. Fewer stares today, fewer whispers. People were either getting used to it or forgetting. At noon, a black car pulled up out front. Lourdes recognized it. Alvaro got out, alone. He came inside. Sunglasses, gray suit, a neutral expression. Waitress! Lourdes felt her stomach churn, but she went to him. Yes? Sit. I'm working. Sit. His voice was calm, dangerous. Mario waved her on from a distance. Lourdes sat, her hands in her lap. You're causing problems, Alvaro said. I didn't cause anything. Yes, you did. For me, for my wife, for this place. You brought this on yourselves. Alvaro took off his sunglasses. His eyes were cold. I'm going to give you one last chance. Drop the complaint. No. You don't know who you're dealing with. Yes, I do. With people who think they can do whatever they want. Alvaro leaned in, his face too close. I can do whatever I want, and I'm going to prove it. Renato appeared out of nowhere, uniformed, standing tall. Is there a problem here? Alvaro leaned back. He smoothed his suit. None at all. Just a conversation. Sounded like a threat. You misheard. Renato looked at Lourdes. She gave a slight nod. Then I think you should leave, Renato said. Alvaro stood, putting his sunglasses back on. This isn't over. I agree, Renato said. It'll be over in court. Alvaro left. The car sped away. Lourdes let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her hands were shaking. Thank you. Was he recording? Renato asked. I didn't see a phone. Worse. It means he wasn't bluffing. Lourdes felt the fear return, cold and heavy. What do I do? Keep going, but be alert. Renato put a hand on her shoulder. And call me if he comes back. The rest of the day crawled by. Lourdes watched the door with every sound, waiting, dreading. At home, Nico greeted her as always. She hugged him tighter than usual. We're going to need some luck, she told him. Nico wagged his tail. As far as he was concerned, they already had it. Saturday dawned heavy. Lourdes woke up tired. Nico was curled up at her feet. She didn't want to wake him. The phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Lourdes? A woman's voice. Formal. Yes? I'm calling from the Varela law firm. Mr. Henrique would like to speak with you. Her heart hammered. About what? About the case. We have a proposal. I don't want any proposals. You haven't even heard it yet. Lourdes took a deep breath, anger rising. You can tell me. 5,000 reais, a public retraction, and the case will be dropped. No. Mrs. Lourdes, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. The answer is no. The lawyer won't like that. That's his problem. Lourdes hung up. Her hands were shaking. She sat on the bed. Nico woke up and rested his head on her lap. They don't give up. He looked up at her, his eyes calm. Lourdes spent the day at home. She cleaned, she cooked, she played with Nico. She tried not to think. In the afternoon, the doorbell rang. She opened the door slowly. Mauricio stood there, tall, bearded, with his father's eyes. He was holding a grocery bag. Hi, Mom. Lourdes' throat closed up. She couldn't speak. Can I come in? She nodded. He stepped inside. Nico came forward to sniff him, and Mauricio bent down. This is Nico? It is. He's a handsome dog. He scratched behind the German shepherd's ears. Yes, she confirmed. Mauricio stood, his eyes sweeping over the kitchenette. It was small, old. He said nothing about it. I brought some food, he said, and a few other things. He pulled them from the bag. A sack of kibble, a new bowl, a proper collar. Lourdes felt her eyes sting. You didn't have to. I know, but I wanted to. They stood in a silence that was heavy, but not unpleasant. Coffee? Lourdes asked. I'd love some. She made the coffee and they sat at the small table, Nico lying on the floor between them. I saw everything in the news, Mauricio said finally. And what did you think? I thought you were brave. He stirred his coffee. Braver than I ever thought you could be. Lourdes lowered her eyes. I wasn't brave with you. No, he agreed quietly. I'm sorry. Mauricio was quiet for a moment, then sighed. You just disappeared after Dad died. I needed you. I know. Why? Why did you leave? Lourdes held her breath. The truth was a heavy thing. Because I was ashamed, she whispered. Ashamed of what happened, of what I couldn't stop. His alcoholism wasn't your fault, but I felt guilty anyway. She finally looked at him. And I was ashamed for you to see me like that. A failure. You're not a failure, Mom. I am. I was. She gestured around the tiny room. Look where I am. Look what you're doing, Mauricio countered, pointing to Nico. You saved him, and you're standing up to powerful people. That's not failure. Lourdes felt something inside her break. The tears came then, hot and thick. Mauricio reached across the table and took her hand. His fingers were calloused, just like hers. I miss him too, Mom. They stayed like that, hands clasped, with Nico between them. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. When Mauricio left, he hugged her at the door. I'll be back next week. Okay. And Mom? Yes? Don't give up, not on them, and not on yourself. Lourdes closed the door and leaned against it. She cried. But it was a different kind of cry now. It was a cry mixed with hope. Sunday was quiet. Lourdes woke late. Nico was asleep beside the bed. The little apartment smelled of old coffee and peace. She made a fresh pot and split a piece of bread with Nico. They ate slowly, unhurried. The doorbell rang at noon. Lourdes opened it to find Donna Sita, a glass container in her hands. I made too much soup, the older woman said. Thank you, Donacita. May I? Lourdes hesitated for only a second before stepping aside. Donacita entered, her gaze taking in the room not with judgment, but simple observation. What a nice little place. It's small. Small is big enough when you have what you need. She set the soup on the counter. And you have company now, I see. Nico trotted over and Donacita stroked his head. Was he the one who smelled the gas? He did. He saved me. Dogs know things, Donacita said, sitting in one of the chairs. My late husband had one. A little mutt. He barked the entire night before the heart attack. Trying to warn you? He tried, but we didn't listen. She looked at Nico. You listened. That's what's important. Lourdes sat on the edge of her bed, Nico resting at her feet. Donacita, can I ask you something? Of course. How do you manage? Being alone, I mean. Donacita gave a tired but genuine smile. One day at a time, and by helping when I can. She stood up. Like you're helping me now? Lourdes asked. Why? Because you helped someone who couldn't repay you. That says everything about a person. After she left, Lourdes stared at the soup, steam rising from the container, carrying the scent of carrots and garlic. She heated it and ate, giving Nico a piece of meat from the broth. They had dinner together in the small kitchen. That night, Lourdes prayed. It had been a long time. The words were difficult at first. I don't know if you're listening. It's been a long time since I've spoken to you. Nico's ears twitched. But I wanted to say thank you. For him, for Mauricio coming back. For Donacita. She glanced at the small, faded holy card of the Virgin Mary on the wall. And I'd like to ask for strength. For what's coming. Nico yawned. Lourdes smiled. Amen. She turned off the light. The kitchenette plunged into darkness. But it wasn't a frightening dark. It was the darkness of someone who knows they are not alone. Nico snored softly. Lourdes closed her eyes. Tomorrow was Monday. Work would return. The pressures, the fears. But today had been a good day, and that had to count for something. Monday arrived cold. Lourdes left Nico with water and his new toys. He whimpered less this time. I'll be back soon. At the diner, Mario was tense. He barely managed a good morning. The shift started slow, with few customers. Lourdes wiped down tables that were already clean. At midday, a city vehicle pulled up out front. Two men in orange vests got out, tools in hand. Public Works, Mario muttered, fixing the plumbing. The men started breaking up the asphalt. The shriek of a jackhammer filled the air, and dust rose in clouds. A few customers complained and left. Lourdes served those who remained. The noise a constant, grinding irritant. At 2, the workers stopped for lunch. The silence that followed felt strange. Renato walked in, sweating, his uniform rumpled. Tough shift? She asked. You have no idea. He ordered coffee and a sandwich. How's it been here? Noisy, but okay. And at home? Nico's good. Mauricio came by on Saturday. Oh yeah? Renato smiled. How was that? Difficult, but good. He nodded, eating in silence. When he finished, he paid and stood to leave. Anything you need, you call me. You always say that. Because it's true. He left. Lourdes went back to the kitchen as the workers started up again, the noise returning with a vengeance. The end of her shift couldn't come soon enough. Lourdes took off her apron and left through the side door. The workers had left the sidewalk torn open. Exposed pipes lay in deep trenches. "Watch your step," one of them called out. She navigated the mess and walked to the bus stop. At home, Nico greeted her restlessly. He paced the kitchenette, sniffing the walls, then returning to her side. "Again?" she murmured. He scratched at the kitchen door. Lourdes opened it. Nothing seemed different, but Nico kept sniffing. He went into the hallway, nosed at the door, the wall, then came back and tugged on the hem of her sweatshirt. "What is it?" He tugged again, insistent. Lourdes opened her apartment door. Nico ran out and stopped in the corridor, sniffing intently at the base of the wall. The smell was faint. Gas. Again. But it wasn't coming from her apartment. It was coming from the hallway. Shit. She knocked on the door next to hers. Seu João, the elderly man. Seu João? No answer. She knocked harder. Seu João. The door creaked open. He stood there in a bathrobe, his eyes sleepy. "What is it, Lourdes? Do you smell gas?" "Gas?" He sniffed the air. "I don't smell anything." "Let me come in." He hesitated, then stepped aside. Lourdes entered with Nico. The smell was stronger in here, coming from the kitchen. "Did you use the stove today?" "I did, to make tea." "And you turned it off?" "I think so." Lourdes went to the stove. One of the knobs was halfway open. The flame had gone out, but gas was still hissing into the air. "Seu João, you nearly blew this place up." The color drained from his face. Lourdes twisted the knob shut and threw open all the windows. Cold air swept through the apartment. "It's going to be okay," she said. "But you need to tell the building manager. It could be the plumbing work they're doing." Seu João sat down heavily, his hands trembling. "Thank you, Lourdes. And your dog." Nico wagged his tail. Lourdes led him back to her apartment. In the hallway, she stopped. She looked at the old walls, at the exposed pipes outside, at the persistent noise of the construction. Something was wrong, and she had a feeling it was about to get worse. The rain started on Tuesday, thick and cold. Lourdes woke to the sound of it drumming against her window. Nico was sleeping soundly beside her bed. "Morning, boy." He stretched, his tongue lolling out in a wide yawn. Lourdes made coffee and split a piece of toast with him. Nico ate quickly and went right back to the kitchen door, agitated all over again. "There's nothing there," she said. But he scratched insistently. Lourdes opened it. The smell was back, much stronger than yesterday. "No." She grabbed her phone. She tried the building manager. Voicemail. She dialed Renato. "Hello? Renato, the gas is worse." "Where?" "In the building, the hallway. I think it's from the construction." "Don't touch anything, I'm on my way." He hung up. Lourdes pulled on a sweatshirt and fastened Nico's makeshift leash. "Come on, we're getting out." In the hallway, the smell was heavy, sickly sweet, and wrong. Lourdes banged on Donacita's door. "Donacita!" The door flew open. Donacita stood there in an apron. "Lourdes, what's wrong?" "Gas. A lot of it. We have to get out." "My God." Donacita grabbed her purse. "Seu João?" "I'll get him." Lourdes pounded on his door. Once, twice, 3 times. "Seu João." Silence. She tried the knob. Locked. "Seu João, please." A sharp metallic snap echoed from below. The building gave a slight shudder. Nico barked, a high, frightened sound. The door opened. Xiao Zhuao appeared, confused. What's going on? You have to get out, now. He grabbed a coat. Lourdes took his arm, and they hurried down the stairs together, Nico pulling on the leash. On the ground floor, more residents were emerging, frightened, some in their pajamas. Lourdes pushed through to the sidewalk, the rain soaking her instantly. She did a quick head count. 10 people were missing. Is anyone on the third floor? She yelled. Donna Joanna in 12, a neighbor said. Can she get down on her own? She has a bad leg. Lourdes looked back at the stairwell. A thin wisp of smoke was beginning to curl out. Damn it! She shoved Nico's leash into Donacita's hand. Hold him! Lourdes, no! But she was already running back inside. The stairwell was dark, a single bulb flickering overhead. Lourdes took the stairs 2 at a time, her heart pounding in her throat. The smell of gas burned her nostrils. Second floor, third floor. She slammed her fist on apartment 12. Donna Joanna! Silence. She pounded harder. Donna Joanna, it's Lourdes! The door opened to reveal a small, elderly woman leaning on a cane. What is it? Gas leak. We have to go down. I can't go fast. I'll help you. Lourdes took her arm and they started down, one slow step at a time. Donna Joanna was shaking. It's okay. We're almost there. On the second floor landing, they heard a new sound from outside. A siren. A patrol car. Renato, Lourdes thought. She quickened the pace. Donna Joanna was gasping. I can't. Yes, you can. Just one more floor. A muffled explosion erupted from the basement. The building shook violently. Lourdes pressed Donna Joanna against the wall. Hold on to me. I'm scared. Me too. But we're getting out. They reached the first floor. The smoke was thicker now. Lourdes was coughing, her eyes burning. At the building's entrance, a uniformed figure appeared. It was Renato, a radio in his hand. Lourdes, is there anyone else? He shouted. We got everyone, she yelled back. He ran up the last few steps and swept Donna Joanna into his arms. Lourdes followed him out. Fire trucks were arriving, red lights flashing, sirens wailing. Renato set Donna Joanna down on the curb, and she sat, breathing hard. Lourdes bent over, hands on her knees, coughing. Are you crazy? Renato demanded. I wasn't going to leave her in there. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. Nico came running, pulling the leash from Donacita's grasp. He jumped up on Lourdes, his tongue lapping at her face. It's okay, boy. It's okay. Firefighters rushed into the building with hoses and masks, their radios crackling. Lourdes sat on the wet curb. Nico settled into her lap, heavy and rain-soaked. Donacita brought her a bottle of water. Drink. Lourdes drank, her throat on fire. She looked at the building, smoke now seeping from the windows. That was close, Renato said, sitting beside her. Too close. He paused. Nico warned you again? Yes, he always does. Renato scratched behind Nico's ears. Good boy. A firefighter approached them, helmet tucked under his arm. Who discovered the leak? I did, Lourdes said. I mean, my dog did. Your dog? He smelled it yesterday, and again today. I called the manager, but nobody came. The firefighter wrote it all down in a small notebook. He looked at Nico. This dog saved everyone here. Lourdes felt her eyes burn again, and this time it wasn't from the smoke. He's a good boy, she whispered. The rain had eased to a drizzle, The neighbors huddled under awnings, shivering but safe. All of them. The firefighters worked for 2 hours, shutting off valves, ventilating the floors, and checking every apartment. Lourdes waited on the sidewalk, Nico in her lap, his fur slowly drying. So Joao came over, a small cut on his forehead. You saved me again. It was Nico. But you were the one who listened to him. Seu Joao held out his hand. Lourdes shook it. Thank you. Dona Joana limped over, her daughter at her side. Young lady, I should be dead right now. Don't say that. But it's true. Dona Joana reached down and patted Nico's head. You and this angel of yours. One by one, more neighbors came to thank her. Lourdes didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Then a man with a camera appeared, wearing a jacket with a local TV station's logo. Are you Lord Zamaro? He asked. I am. May I ask you a few questions? Lourdes glanced at Renato, who nodded his assent. You may. The reporter switched on his camera. A small red light began to blink. How did you find out about the leak? My dog, she said simply. Nico. He sensed it. And what did you do? I warned the neighbors. I got out everyone I could. Did you know the risk? Lourdes paused. The smoke, the sudden explosion, the way the whole building had shuddered beneath her feet. I knew, she said, her voice steady. But I couldn't leave anyone in there. Why not? Because it was the right thing to do. The reporter switched off the camera, a smile touching his lips. That part will air tonight. When he had gone, Renato stepped closer. You're making headlines again. I don't want to be in the news. Too late for that. He lit a cigarette, the tip glowing in the dim light. Everyone is going to see this. Everyone who? Everyone, he said, exhaling a plume of smoke. Including them. Lourdes understood immediately. Alvaro and Bianca, the lawyer, the lawsuit. Is that bad? No, it's good. Renato let the smoke drift from his lips. It shows them who you really are. The fire department cleared the building at 5 that afternoon. The damage was minor, the plumbing repaired. They could go back. Lourdes went up the stairs with Nico at her heels. The small studio apartment still smelled of smoke. She opened every window, letting a breeze filter through the stale air. Nico went straight to his blanket in the corner, lay down, and let out a long, weary sigh. Tired, aren't you, boy? She murmured, filling his bowl with fresh water. He drank deeply, then returned to his spot. Lourdes sank onto the edge of her bed. Her hands were still shaking, a faint tremor left by the adrenaline as it finally drained away. Her phone rang. It was Maurizio. Mom? I saw it on the news online. Are you okay? I'm fine. Nico is too. You went back up there? With all that smoke? There were people inside, Mauricio. You could have died. But I didn't. Lourdes closed her eyes. I had to do it. He was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. You're becoming a different person. No, she said, looking at Nico with a clarity she hadn't felt in a long time. I'm becoming myself. Another pause. I'm proud of you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. A lump formed in Lourdes's throat. Really? Really? They talked for another 15 minutes, about everything and nothing. When they hung up, Lourdes felt lighter. She made coffee and ate a piece of bread, sharing a small piece with Nico. They ate their simple dinner in silence. That night, the news report aired. Lourdes watched it on her phone. She looked drenched and exhausted, but her gaze was firm. Because it was the right thing to do. The phrase echoed in the small apartment. Simple. True. Lourdes lay down to sleep. Nico curled up on his blanket beside the bed, his breathing slow and steady. Tomorrow was Wednesday. Back to work. Back to the routine. Back to life. But something inside her had shifted. The fear was gone. The next morning, a knock on the door woke her. It was 8 o'clock. She hadn't gone to work. Renato had called and told her to rest. Who is it? Fire department. We need to ask a few questions. She opened the door to two uniformed men. One held a small camera. May we come in? Nico trotted over to sniff them, and both men reached down to pet him. Is this the dog? One asked. Yes. This is Nico. They asked her how he had acted when he had started barking, how many times he had alerted her. He saved at least a dozen people, the first firefighter said, scratching Nico behind the ears. It was his instinct, an instinct guided by you. Dogs like him are rare. After they left, Lourdes made coffee. Nico ate his food slowly, still tired from the day before. The phone rang again. An unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Lourdes? This is the mayor's office. We'd like to schedule a ceremony. A ceremony? To honor your dog for the rescue. Lourdes blinked, trying to process the words. That's not necessary. Oh, but it is. It's important. Friday at 10, at City Hall. He hung up before she could refuse. Lourdes looked at Nico, who was now chewing on his favorite toy. You're getting an award, she told him. He ignored her, completely absorbed. The afternoon brought more calls, a newspaper, a radio station, a TV channel wanting to do a special feature. No, Lourdes said to the fifth request. Thank you, but no. At 4, Renato appeared at her door holding a bag. I brought food. Figured you hadn't cooked. I haven't had the energy. They ate at her small table. Roasted chicken, rice, and beans. The video has gone viral, Renato said. Viral? 50,000 views. And climbing. Lourdes stopped eating. 50,000? People like heroes, he said, gesturing with his fork toward Nico. And they like hero dogs even more. He's not a hero, he just did what he knew. That's exactly why he is, Renato said, cleaning his plate. And so are you. I just warned people. You went into a burning building. Twice. Lourdes didn't know what to say. She had simply acted, without thinking. Any news about the lawsuit? She asked, changing the subject. There is. The hearing has been scheduled. Her stomach turned to ice. When? Next week. Tuesday. So soon? The judge fast-tracked it because of the media attention. Renato looked at her, his expression serious. They're going to try and discredit you. Say it's all an act for publicity. And how do I prove it's not? By being you, that's all. Lourdes finished her meal, the plate feeling heavy in her hands. I'm scared. I know. What if I lose? Then you tried, Renato said, standing up. But you're not going to lose. Not with all this. He held up his phone, showing her the video of the rescue. The comments scrolled by. Hero. An angel. Brazil needs more people like her. Lourdes felt a strange sensation. It wasn't pride. It was simpler than that. It was the quiet certainty of having done the right thing. Tuesday arrived under a gray, overcast sky. Lourdes woke early and dressed in the nicest clothes she owned: black trousers, a white blouse, her old but polished shoes. Nico watched from the bed, his head tilted. "I have to take care of something," she told him. "I'll be back soon." Renato picked her up at 8. He was wearing a suit, his face grim. "Ready?" "No, but let's go." The courthouse was downtown, an old building with marble staircases and high ceilings. There were more people there than Lourdes had expected: reporters, curious onlookers, even a few of her neighbors. Donna Sita gave her a small wave. Mauricio was standing right beside her. "Son?" "I told work I had an appointment," he said, pulling her into a hug. "I wasn't going to miss this." Lourdes felt her eyes sting and blinked rapidly. A young, thin lawyer approached them, a briefcase in hand. "Mrs. Lourdes, I'm Paulo. I'll be representing you." "But I didn't hire anyone." "The public defender's office took the case, pro bono." Renato offered a small, knowing smile. "See? You're not alone." They entered the courtroom. It felt large and imposing. The judge hadn't arrived yet. Alvaro and Bianca were on the other side of the room, dressed in expensive clothes, flanked by a lawyer in a crisp blue suit. Their expressions were neutral, unreadable. Lourdes sat, her palms sweating, her heart hammering against her ribs. "All rise," the lawyer whispered. The judge entered, a man with white hair, a tired face, and a black robe. "You may be seated." He read from the case file, his voice low and steady. "Physical assault, moral damages, animal cruelty." He looked up at Alvaro. "Do you confirm the events as described?" "No, Your Honor. It was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding that resulted in bodily harm?" He turned to Bianca. "And you stood by?" "I was just trying to kick a puppy," the judge finished for her. A heavy silence fell over the room. The judge asked for the evidence. Lourdes's lawyer presented the videos. 3 different angles, all showing the same thing: the shove that sent Lourdes to the ground, and Nico cowering in fear. Bianca looked away as the footage played. "Does the defense wish to respond?" the judge asked. Alvaro's lawyer stood, his blue suit almost shimmering under the lights. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges an incident occurred, but the plaintiff provoked." "Provoked how?" "By interfering, by making a scene, by seeking attention." "Attention," the judge repeated, turning his gaze to Lourdes. "Were you seeking attention, madam?" Lourdes stood, her legs unsteady. "No, sir. I was only protecting a defenseless animal." "And afterwards?" "After what?" "After you became a news story, saved your neighbors, became a hero." Lourdes understood the trap. She took a deep breath. "I never wanted to be a hero. I only wanted to do the right thing, for Nico and for my neighbors." The judge nodded slowly, looking down at his papers. "Witnesses?" 3 people who had been at the diner that day testified, all confirming the assault. Donna Sita and another neighbor, Seu João, testified about the rescue. Lourdes listened in silence. Then it was Alvaro and Bianca's turn. They denied any cruelty, speaking of stress and misunderstandings. "A dog in a place like that," Bianca began. "It was a thirsty puppy," the judge cut in. "Please continue." She didn't. The judge banged his gavel once. "I will review the evidence and deliver my verdict in 48 hours." Everyone rose. Lourdes felt her legs give way, and Mauricio caught her arm. "You were incredible," he whispered. Outside, reporters swarmed them, shouting questions from all sides. Renato pushed a path through the crowd. "No comment. We'll wait for the verdict." In the car, Lourdes finally collapsed, not in tears, but sinking deep into the seat, utterly spent. "It's going to be okay," Renato said. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. I saw the judge's face. He's already decided." Lourdes didn't answer. She just wanted to go home, to see Nico, to forget everything for a few hours. When she walked through her door, he leaped into her arms, a bundle of pure, uncomplicated joy. She sat on the floor and hugged him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving me courage." Nico licked her face, not understanding the words but sensing the emotion, and stayed right there with her, just as he always did. Thursday arrived heavy with anticipation. Lourdes woke before her alarm, having barely slept. Nico had been restless too. The phone rang at 9 o'clock. It was Renato. "It's out." Her heart stopped. "And?" "Guilty. A heavy fine, community service, moral damages awarded to you." Lourdes sank onto the bed, her hands trembling. "And there's more. A restraining order. They can't come near you." "I won?" "You won." Lourdes hung up the phone and stared at it. Nico came and rested his head on her lap. She didn't feel joy, not yet. She felt relief, immense and profound. Mauricio called moments later. "Mom, I saw it on the court's website." "I know. Are you happy?" Lourdes thought for a moment. "I'm relieved." "Is there a difference?" "A big one." Donna Sita knocked on the door at noon, holding a cake. "To celebrate." "How did you know?" "The whole neighborhood knows," she said with a wide smile. "You're famous now." Lourdes didn't want to be famous. She just wanted to live her life, without fear or sideways glances. But she accepted the cake and shared a piece with Nico. That afternoon, a car pulled up in front of her building. Lourdes recognized it. It was Mario, her manager. He came up the stairs and knocked timidly. "Hi, Lourdes." "Hello, Mario. May I come in?" She let him pass. Nico let out a low growl. "Easy, boy." Mario stood awkwardly in the small room. "I came to apologize." Lourdes crossed her arms. "For what? For pressuring me? For not defending me? For everything." He stared at the floor. "I was a coward." "Yes, you were. And I wanted to offer you your job back. With a raise." Lourdes blinked. "A raise?" 10% and... He hesitated. "And Nico can stay. By the door. With a water bowl." Lourdes looked at her dog, who looked back at her some. "I don't know." "Please. The customers have been asking for you. They want to see you." "See me? Or see the woman from the news?" Mario opened his mouth, then closed it. "Both, maybe. But mostly you." Lourdes thought. She needed the money, the routine. She missed the work, the smell of fresh coffee, the simple good mornings. "3 conditions," she said. "Name them." "A 15% raise, Nico stays by the door, and I choose my days off." Mario nodded quickly. "Done." They shook hands. When he was gone, Lourdes sat down, a strange feeling washing over her. "What have I done?" she murmured. Nico wagged his tail. A laugh escaped her lips, a sound that still felt unfamiliar. "Well, boy, it looks like we're going back to work." On Friday, The city held the ceremony. The hall was filled with people, cameras, and long speeches. Nico was presented with a small medal, which was hung on his new collar. He immediately tried to bite it. "Stop that," Lourdes chided, and the crowd chuckled. The mayor spoke of courage and loyalty. Lourdes listened without really hearing. She just wanted it to be over. When it was finished, Renato drove her home. "How do you feel?" "Tired." "That's normal," he said, pulling up to her building. "But proud, I hope?" Lourdes looked out the window. The neighborhood, the streets, everything looked the same. But she wasn't. "A little," she admitted. "Good. Because you should be." Back in her apartment, Lourdes took the medal off Nico's collar and hung it on the wall, next to a small picture of a saint. "You earned this." Nico ignored her and went to his food bowl. She smiled. For him, nothing had changed. It was still the same routine, the same person, the same simple love. Maybe that was it. Maybe greatness was just continuing to be good, even when no one was watching. She went to bed early, Nico sleeping soundly at her feet. His warm, solid weight, a comforting presence. For the first time in years, Lourdes slept without guilt. Monday came, bright and clear. Lourdes woke without an alarm, her body knowing it was time. Nico stretched beside her, letting out a wide yawn. His routine, too. "Today we go back," she said softly. She put on her clean uniform, tied back her hair, and clipped the new leash to Nico's collar. At the diner, customers were waiting. A few of them applauded when she walked in. "Welcome back, Lourdes." She didn't know where to look, her cheeks burning. "Thank you." Mario had placed a brand new water bowl by the door. It was bright blue with Nico painted on the side in white letters. Lourdes filled it, and Nico drank, then settled into a patch of shade. The shift began like any other. Coffee, bread, quiet conversation. But something was different. People spoke to her now. Really spoke to her. "How's Nico? Are you doing any more interviews?" "My daughter saw you on TV. She's a fan now." Lourdes answered them all. Kind. Present. During her break, Renato appeared. "First day back. How are you?" "Good. Strange, but good. People will forget. Soon you'll be invisible again." "I hope so." Renato laughed. "No, you don't. Nobody really wants to be invisible." Lourdes thought about it. He was right. She didn't want to be famous, but she wanted to be seen, to be acknowledged, respected. Maybe you're right. The day passed quickly. No commotion, no fear, just work. At 3, she took off her apron. Nico was waiting at the door, his tail wagging. On the way home, a woman stopped her. "Are you Lourdes?" "I am. I just wanted to say thank you. My husband lives in that building. You saved him." The woman hugged Lourdes, a quick, strong embrace, and was gone before she could reply. Lourdes stood frozen, the warmth of the hug still lingering on her skin. Nico tugged on the leash. She followed. Back home, the phone rang. "Maurizio?" "Mom, can I come over for dinner tonight?" "You can, but I don't have much. I'll bring pizza." He arrived at 7 with a large pizza, soda, and a bag of food for Nico. They ate sitting on the bed. There was no proper table. "This studio is small," Mauricio observed. "I know." They ate in silence. A comfortable silence now. "Mom?" "Yes?" "I was thinking, maybe you could move to a bigger place." "With what money?" with the settlement money, and I can help. Lourdes looked at him. Bearded, serious. He looked like his father, but different. You'd help? Of course, you're my mother. A lump formed in her throat. I'll think about it. But not now. Right now, all I want is normal. I understand. Mauricio stayed until 9. When he left, he hugged her at the door. I'll come again next week. That would be nice. Lourdes closed the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. The studio was quiet, small, but it felt full. Nico was asleep on his blanket. The metal gleamed on the wall. Mauricio's photo beside it. Lourdes took it all in, memorizing the scene. This was the moment. To breathe, to feel, to know it had all been worth it. Everything. Every single second. Saturday dawned, bright and sunny. Lourdes woke up slowly. No work, no commitments. She had only the day. She made coffee and sat by the window, Nico lying at her feet. The city was waking up slowly. Cars passed by. Children shouted in the street. A normal life. The phone rang. It was Donna Sida. Good morning, Lourdes. I'm making lunch. Want to come? How many people? Just you, me, Seu João, and Donna Joanna. A small get-together. Lourdes smiled. Yes, I'll be there. Lunch was simple. Rice, beans, and chicken. The conversation was soft, punctuated by occasional laughter. Donna Joanna told old stories. Seu João complained about his medications. Donna Sida served strong coffee. Lourdes listened to it all. She took part. She laughed. You seem different, Donna Sida said. How so? Lighter. Lourdes thought about it. She was right. The weight was gone. Lifted, little by little, day by day. I think I am. In the afternoon, she returned home. Nico raced ahead, bolting up the stairs. In the studio, Lourdes turned on the radio. Old music filled the air. She cleaned, not out of obligation, but simply because she wanted to. At 5, Mauricio called again. Mom, I found an apartment. 2 bedrooms near your work. Mauricio, just come see it. You don't have to decide anything. When? Tomorrow morning. Lourdes hesitated, but then she agreed. On Sunday they went together. The apartment was larger, with big windows that let the light flood in. What do you think? Mauricio asked. Lourdes walked through the rooms, picturing where the bed would go, where Nico would sleep, where she could have a small table for her coffee. It's nice. So you like it? I do, but I don't know. Think about it. No rush. They went back. In her studio, Lourdes sat on the bed. Nico settled into her lap. She looked around. It was small, old, but it had been enough. It had been the place where everything changed, where she had found Nico, where she had found her courage, where she had found herself. Maybe it was time to leave. Or maybe not. She decided not to decide. Not yet. For now, she was fine right where she was. That night, Lourdes took the photo of Nico, the one from the day he got the medal, and placed it next to the holy card on the wall. Our Lady looked down, and Nico looked forward. Together, they watched over the wall. Lourdes turned off the light and lay down in bed. Nico was at her feet, his familiar weight a comfort. Outside, the city went on. Distant noise, life happening. But in here, there was peace. Lourdes closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and felt sleep slowly coming. Before she drifted off, she whispered, "Thank you." To Nico, to Maurizio, to Renato, to Donacita, to everyone who had stayed. But most of all, she thanked herself for not giving up. Nico sighed in his sleep, a small, peaceful sound. Lourdes smiled in the darkness and finally slept in peace.